Boom! We are here for the Sex Trafficking Roundtable. This is a first of its kind on the Brawl For College podcast. And I'm super excited about it because what we have here is leaders of really the most prominent sex trafficking organizations in Georgia. And I actually just learned on a tour of City Refuge that depending on the report, we as a city are either 1, 2, or 3 in the nation for this cause, for this epidemic. And so first of all, I want to thank all of you for being here. We'll get to introductions here. I also want to thank Morgan & Morgan for making this roundtable possible. They are definitely focused on helping to do what all of us here are committed to doing too, which is eradicating this from Atlanta and from this country and the world. So grateful to them. And so let's go ahead and start off with Tati. If you want to introduce yourself, explain what your organization does, and we'll just go around the circle.
Yeah, so Tatiana Ferguson with Hands United, and I'm the executive director of the organization. And we provide housing for underage victims of trafficking. Our main thing is under 18 boys and girls, because there isn't really a program for boys that have been trafficked, although it's not as common. Then for girls, it does happen. And so we wanted to step into that and kind of provide that solution within our city, and to really work with the future men of Atlanta to make sure that we can break that cycle for them to where they're not going from within the industry to then possibly going into leading the industry and continuing on to where they can step out and become community leaders. Thank you for having us.
Awesome. Thanks, Tati.
My name's Tommy Ferguson. I'm brawling in the April 6th, 2019 Brawl For Cause charity boxing event for Hands United. And I'm also Tati's husband. And thanks for having us.
It's a family affair and perfect transition.
Yeah. I'm Kelsey Deal, and I'm the CEO of House of Cherith, and it is our residential recovery program for adult female survivors of sexual trafficking, exploitation, and those that have been involved in the sexual entertainment industry. And so we provide residential recovery for them. It's a 24/7 program, typically 12 to 18 months in which the ladies are with us, and we address all of life's issues and barriers and hurdles to success, mind, body, soul, spirit.
Awesome. And how have you been involved with Brawl For Cause in the past?
So I fought for Brawl For Cause in 2016 on behalf of House of Cherith alongside Sam Konigsberg. And then last year we had another fighter fighting for House of Cherith, generating awareness and funds for our ladies. And then this year, my dad, Bruce Deal, is actually fighting for House of Cherith as well.
Awesome. Bruce.
Yeah, so Bruce Deal, as Kelsey mentioned, her dad. I'm the founder and CEO at City Refuge and also chairman of the board for House of Cherith. And very involved in the anti-trafficking space for the last 6 years after a dramatic encounter with a young lady who had been trafficked. We launched a program that's now served over 730 women from all around the country that have been trafficked and exploited and participated in the adult entertainment industry. And I'm brawling this year. I'm not sure what your oldest guy has been in the past, but I know I'm the oldest this year. So at 58, I'm climbing in the ring for the first time in order to fight to raise funds for House of Cherith and to battle this, as you mentioned, epidemic, both in Atlanta and around the world.
Love it. Well, again, thank you all for being here. I'd love to dig deeper into all the organizations represented here. We are sitting at City Refuge. Tommy and I are all sweaty. Tati too. Just got a workout in. So that's why we look like this. But I am astounded. I did a tour the year that Kelsey fought with Sam, and just seeing the transformation over those 2 years has been incredible. And that's kind of par for the course with you guys. You've been evolving this for how long now, Bruce?
Yeah, I started City Refuge 22 years ago, and it sort of goes back to that sexual exploitation story. So I came downtown 22 years ago, actually on an assignment just to close a little church a couple miles from here. And our 5th or 6th Sunday in that process, a young lady walked in, and at the end of service walked down, and she was weeping. And her words to me were, "I've been hooking and stripping 14 years. Can you help me get out of life?" And so from that one yes, 22 years ago, of helping this one young lady who had been exploited over those 14 years, from saying yes to her, we started City of Refuge, been here 22 years now. do full wraparound services for not only those that have been trafficked, but for those that are coming from homeless environments, suffering PTSD, domestic violence environments, economic disadvantage. So housing, medical, mental health, dental, vision, parenting classes, financial literacy, vocational training. So trying to have a wraparound continuum of care for those in crisis. And as I mentioned, 6 years ago, we embraced the anti-trafficking piece to offer all of those support services and added another layer of trauma-informed care to make sure that we're addressing particularly those sexual issues that they've had along the way. So 22 years now and 13 locations around the country, many of which also help us in our anti-trafficking efforts. Absolutely incredible. And a testimony to doing for one what you wish you could do for many. This all starting with one woman and one yes, and snowballing into this. Like you said, say the number of states and locations again? Yeah, so we're in 13 locations now, in multiple large cities and rural communities. So we have 5 locations in Georgia, 3 in Virginia. We're Chicago, Baltimore, Sacramento, Cincinnati. I just moved a family to Dallas recently to launch our efforts there in Dallas. And 22 years later, it does look like a nice size organization. But again, to your point, it started with saying yes to one young lady in crisis. It's amazing. And we're going to get into a lot of ways to get involved with this kind of positive change. But a lot of the people listening, a lot of people in Brawl Nation, they want to get more involved. They want to help somehow. So I think that's a perfect example of how to do it. It doesn't have to be this over-the-top scheduled volunteer day of the week every single week. It can just be one person that needs help, deciding to help them, and it can be that simple, and it can just be a little bit of positive momentum going in the right direction to keep going and going and going. So thank you. So 22 years ago for City of Refuge, and then House of Cherith was born 6 years ago. So
our birthday month, so we have celebrated 5 years this March. And so in those 5 years, we've had over 700 ladies come through the program. And while not all of those have said yes to the long-term recovery and success and made the right decisions, that's 700 seeds that were planted, right? There's 700 chances for success and for light, hope, and transformation to be shown. So we have a 3-phase approach to recovery: a safe house, a long-term program, and a transitional program, up to 40 rooms. And so it's just fun. You just do life with the ladies every day. Things as simple as we would deem it as cooking breakfast together, reading recipes and putting those together and helping them cultivate self-worth and positive thinking and relationship building. And then you get in the nitty-gritty stuff of cognitive behavior therapy, trauma-informed care, addiction recovery. 97% of my ladies have admitted substance abuse usage in their lifetime. And so just really combating those mental and emotional barriers to success and what that looks like. So yeah, this March is a fun month. We're going to have a party at the end of the month to celebrate our 5 years.
Woo, congratulations. It's a big milestone.
Pretty exciting.
Awesome. Okay, and moving right along.
Yeah, so the way we found out about City of Refuge is we had heard about the different ways they were involved in our city, but really the quality of the work. And so kind of how you mentioned, even just seeing everything, it's really blows our mind to see this within our city and all the different services they provide. So it was an absolute pleasure to be able to walk through and see it and partner with them. But with Hands United, the way we kind of got started in 2014, we had been working just with, I say marginalized populations, but those that are in low socioeconomic neighborhoods, and to really, those that don't have opportunities, just to kind of sum it up, those that aren't going to have the different exposure to different colleges or careers that they can pick because of their zip code. And here in Atlanta, and so we provided just a GED program and a cyber school. So it was very simple. And we kept hearing about human trafficking and this huge thing that happens, but kind of on the down low, and no one kind of knows how to take it on. And to be honest, I didn't believe it. I did not think it happened here in the States. I thought international for sure, but no way in America. And hearing more about the issue, and then also hearing from the different nonprofits that were involved, the numbers and the ages and how they enter, and that there's not one profile. The only really common thread of someone who gets into the industry is vulnerability of any kind. It's anyone who's vulnerable, whether they're young, middle-aged, whether they're adult or child. It can happen to anyone in America, and then really on the streets of Atlanta that we drive through. So hearing about that, we started just asking questions. and seeing what's missing, or if anything is missing, if everything's there but just needs support. And that's kind of how we got to where we are now. So last year was when we really launched in August. So we're fairly new in this part of the work with providing the restorative housing and then specifically the demographic that we're going after. But it's been great to know that we can, come in and fill in a space and work side by side with everyone that's already doing it. And so that's our goal. Kind of what Kelsey mentioned is to plant that seed, because there's so many different levels that they go through and that they have kind of struggled through with the trauma that they've been through with the different abuse, but then also even just the mental, the manipulation, the emotional, and even things that for us is very simple, like very healthy development, such as cooking breakfast together, is not something that they would even, the concept of together would be something that's natural for them. So if the best thing we can do is plant a seed and that they can go back to, if they do relapse or do go back into it, they can just remember that one tiny seed, then hey, we've done our job.
There is some good. Yeah. Well, let's dig into the problem. I mean, let's, because I certainly wasn't aware of this until Sam visited and kind of opened my eyes to this world through you, Kelsey, and then eventually Bruce. So can we talk about like what's going on for people that haven't heard of like sex trafficking being not just in the United States but so prevalent in our home city? Why is that the case? Why is it so bad here?
Well, there are multiple reasons, Matt, for that. Atlanta being in one of the top tier, whatever the number is, we're busiest airport in the world, right? So you have international travel every day. We are a huge sports town. We're a huge convention town. So you're constantly having visitors come to your city on a regular basis. Unfortunately, many of them looking for sex, right? So they're coming here. So that's a natural breeding ground when you have busiest airport in the world, sports, convention, those kind of things taking place. You also have the inner city and the rural areas where poverty is a big driver around trafficking. So there's an enticement for financial gain. And the financial gain is often not the daughter or the son that's being trafficked, but it's somebody that introduces them to the trafficker in the grooming process or the kidnapping process that may take place.
And let's back up just a little bit. So let's boil it down to the most simple level of what is sex trafficking. What actually happens when something sex trafficking related occurs?
Well, the definition, Kelsey, make sure I'm right on this. So the definition is by force, fraud, or coercion, right? Okay. So if somebody is put into a position where they are being used, sold for, or benefiting from the sale of sex by either force, fraud, or coercion, then that's considered sex trafficking.
Okay. So
they may have as an economic challenge. They may have a mental health challenge. They may have an addiction. And if the pimp or the trafficker is meeting any of their quote-unquote needs around housing, around trafficking, around money, and in return, they are being used for sexual purposes, that's sex trafficking. And so that's what's happening. In the world, there are reports you read up to 37 million slaves worldwide now in both human trafficking, labor trafficking, and sex trafficking. Largest number of slaves held captive in the history of civilization. And we're in 2019. Again, in the United States, it's a huge industry. In Atlanta, $290 million a year is the number projected by law enforcement that's spent on sex trafficking. That's more than the sale of illegal sale of guns and drugs combined. It's what's being spent on sex trafficking.
Wow.
So it's a real issue. In Atlanta, pimps take home, according to the Urban Report, an average of $30,000 a week. And so they have 5 to 6 girls that they quote unquote handle, which are in their group that they trade. And so average sex act in Atlanta costs $100. So they're forcing these women into 60 to 65 sex acts a week. And so by the time they're rescued or escaped, they're broken physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, every way you can be broken. And unfortunately, the entry age is 12 to 14, right? And so to the point of this conversation, Tatiana and their group, Hands United, they're working on the underage to try and prevent that and rescue and restore. We're working on those 18 and over that we know have been in that life, unfortunately, for a number of years. And so there's this huge need around both preventive and then restorative. And to admit, number one, that it's in our city. And then number two, engage. That's what we need people to do, to admit it is an issue, and then to engage. Sometimes we see the issue and look away. We want people to see the issue and engage in doing something about that issue.
We speak with a lot of teens at school or at different community events with parents. A lot of times they don't really realize how big the crime is. They think it's small-time crime. And when you're comparing it to the sale of drugs or guns and thinking it's not $30,000 a year, like an annual salary that most people are like, well, that's not that much. It's $30,000 a week spread over the course of a whole year with multiple networks and communication with each other. That's unfortunately very sophisticated. So parents kind of are surprised when they hear that and they think, hold on a second, it's almost like this huge beast that they're like, can you say that again? Versus thinking, no, it's something small that happens just in the low socioeconomic neighborhoods, when it really bleeds all over throughout the city. And so I think that when they hear that, it almost turns on that flag to think, okay, and also having the social media aspect of it to think it's not just accessible if your kid is on that street or lives there, but they can get to, unfortunately, anyone through social media, the internet, the benefits also of social media, but then that's how they contact them a lot of ways, one of the ways. And so to be aware of it is a really important step to know how big it is in the beginning. Yeah,
and I mean, the statistics are staggering. I mean, they're mind-boggling. The amount of money moving through this industry, it blows my mind. I hadn't heard that until now. When I first caught wind of this through Sam, he had a very similar reaction to, I think, what all of us here have had once we learned it, which he said, now that I know it, I can't unknow it. It's in my head. I have to do something about it, and you're all actively doing something about it, which is amazing. What are, in all of your experiences, maybe start with Kelsey, what have been the most effective methods of both preventing and rehabilitating people affected by sex trafficking?
So I'll speak more to the rehabilitation side because that's what we do. We don't really focus on a lot of preventative care work right now. We partner with a lot of organizations that do that. And so that's one cool thing about the city of Atlanta. You do have a lot of organizations that are kind of filling the gaps. So one will focus on awareness and advocacy. One will focus on the legislative side of things. One will focus on restorative care for minors. We do it for adults, and it's so much fun. And I would say that the number one thing that you can do with a survivor is to just join her in her journey and to be there through those highs and through the lows. And I was telling someone a story earlier today. I've been cussed out every way you can be cussed out. I've been threatened. I've had a lady tell me where and when and how she's going to kill me. And if you respond negatively or with anger or with that same harsh passion or violent words, that's what they've experienced their entire life. But if you respond and say, okay, I'm sorry you feel that way. You want to go get some coffee? She's like, wait, what? I just cussed you out and you want to go hang out? And I'm like, no, you're not mad at me. You're mad I'm enforcing a rule so that we can all be safe and secure. But I know the root of the cause is because she's been traumatized. She's been abused. She's been taken advantage of. And so if I respond like everybody else has, then that's all she thinks she's worth. But if you respond with that love and that care and you say, hey, I'm going to be there when you get your GED, but I'm also going to be there after you cuss me out, she's like, there's something more here, you know? And so just loving them through those moments. And I love those moments of passion and the crisis moments. I'm a bit of a adrenaline junkie. I guess that's why I love the cross so much, because you're literally fighting for what you believe in. But when people run from the crisis, I run towards it just because that's such a real and raw moment where there's so much emotion and there's so much opportunity for you to say, hey, you're worth more than my reaction to this. And so I think that would be the number one thing that people need to realize is it's just human beings. It's just all of us. You know, we could have been prime targets. And the craziest thing these days is pimps don't look like the guys in the movies with the top hats and the canes. They look like Matt and Tati and Tommy and Kelsey. People are recruiting their own friends. They're sending high schoolers into school saying, hey, I see you're wearing some old shoes. You want the new LeBrons? Come meet my boyfriend. He can hook you up. And so, like, to Tati's point earlier, social media is one of the top 3 recruitment measures for minors these days. So just joining people in their journey would be my biggest advice, I guess, for helping the rehabilitative side of things.
Well, and the beautiful thing about that is it's universal. And citing positive change is just disrupting that negative cycle. So if they're in this cycle of every time I bring this up, it gets met with the same kind of ferocity back, just showing some love, holding her hand, looking her in the eyes, letting her know, hey, you can talk to me this way. I understand it's coming from a place of suffering. I'm going to help you ease that suffering.
And that whole concept of self-worth and just pouring back into yourself, and you're worth more than the price tag a man put on you. You're worth more than what you were sold for. You have all of these talents and abilities, and just focusing on a lot of those things. And then, you'll have things come up. We just heard a train horn earlier. That was one of my girls' triggers. Because anytime a train came by her camp, she was thrown onto it and was sold to all the hobos on the train. And that's how they funded their housing setup, right? And so anytime she heard the train when she was here, she got really upset. And she even ran through one of our glass doors and busted the door, went running through the parking lot. I could have just let her go because it was dangerous, and I shouldn't have chased her, probably, according to all of the stories that you learn in school. This is how you respond in a crisis situation. Me, I'm thinking my girl is running down the street. I'm going to go get her. So I do, and just find her under this picnic table. All she wanted was somebody to chase her. That's all she needed. So yes, you get all of these triggers and all of this animosity, this hurt, this pain, this trauma. It's a horror thing. The movies they make, Taken, is a great movie because it's eye-opening, but it's horrible. And these are people's real-life stories. It's not just fiction. And they just want somebody to chase them, to say, hey, I'll come back. And that's one of the stories that Bruce is famous for. There was a big brawl in one of the feeding lines when we first started City of Refuge. And then the next time they came out to feed on the street again, there were no people there. And Bruce went looking for him, and they didn't think that Bruce would come back to feed again because there was an altercation. And that's one of his mottos for the longest time is, we come back. And so just showing these ladies, we come back. We will continue to fight for you, even if you don't fight for yourself, until you think you're worth it. And the most fun and the most rewarding thing is when the aha moment goes off, they not only start fighting for themselves, but then they start fighting for other ladies that have gone through it. It's just so cool to see. I have 2 alumni on staff right now. So they graduated our program, horrible stories, going back to childhood, and one was trafficked as a 37-year-old female. And so nobody's exempt to this, but seeing them get it, and now they're leading the recovery sessions for other ladies that have just come out of it, it's the coolest thing. It gives you chills just thinking about it.
Amazing. And I mean, so much to dig into there. First, let's dig into you running towards crises and fighting for these women.
Get it from him.
Yeah, I think it runs in the family. Yeah. So I don't know if Bruce wants to chime in, but let's talk about your brawl, like how you found out about it, what the whole thing, because I was there, but y'all tell it really well. So I'd love to hear how you found out. And
Yeah, well, a couple of years ago, Sam was fighting for House of Cherith, and we hosted a training here on campus with Dom, our trainer, and a young lady accompanied you guys that day. And Kelsey happened to be there helping to get everything ready, providing drinks and just space. And she just sort of asked the other young lady, said, what are you doing with the brawl? What's your role? And she goes, well, I do this and this, but I'd really like to fight, but I can't find anybody to fight. And Kelsey goes, I'll fight you. And so the brawl was 3 weeks later. And so Kelsey did a speed training for 3 weeks and proud dad moment, TKO'd the girl in the second round. So that was cool. But the fact that you guys set this up, as Brawl for a Cause to help not only anti-trafficking, but other causes, gives us a platform. It's one of the things in the anti-trafficking space that we're talking about specifically today. Platform is so critical to tell the story, to make people aware, to grab people's hearts, to get their conscious about this. And that's what you guys are doing with Brawl for a Cause, is you're giving us that opportunity to run at the problem, right? Too often we withdraw from the issues around us and withdraw from the problem. For those that are wired, like Tommy and Toddy and Kelsey and myself, that we want to run toward the problem, sometimes we don't have the platforms and the runways. And so Brawl for a Cause gives us that. And with social media being sometimes disruptive in negative ways, but it's also an opportunity for folks like Tommy and I to promote what we're doing and to raise money and to have this ongoing little banter back and forth. Tommy goes ahead of me on fundraising. I get messages from him like
Late night messages.
a little trash talking for good.
But running to the fight, literally, and the way that you guys have set it up is just really a great opportunity for all of us.
Well, thank you for leaning all the way into that and getting involved the way that you have. It's one thing to do what you do, which is figuratively fight for these people every single day. It's another thing to put yourself in harm's way in a ring in front of all your friends and family and people that support your cause, and it's a scary thing. So there's a lot of brawlers in this room, and I appreciate all of you. Tommy, let's talk. I think if I'm not mistaken, are you currently in the lead?
I mean, I hadn't checked in 2 or 3 days. On Friday, I was.
Okay.
Bruce is one of those. He's a wizard, man. He's
Yep.
one of those guys. I stopped texting him about a week ago, so I wanted to. The first 2 times he pulled ahead within like 2 hours of a text message.
Oh, you're poking the bear.
Maybe I can keep it for about a week.
Nice. So just for context, our 2 top fundraisers right now for the 2019 Brawl are Tommy and Bruce. So both anti-trafficking related causes, both doing amazing work, both on the training side and the fundraising side. So do you want to give a little bit of your story of how you found out about Brawl, why you got involved, how you're taking this journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So I found out about Brawl for College from Kelsey. So she shared her story and just the fire in her eyes talking about it. I instantly went home and filled out the application. I just on Google Brawl for College and just basically didn't think too much about it. I was like, I'm gonna commit and do it. And like Bruce was mentioning, it's a perfect platform to be able to present these worthy causes and stuff that people, in my case, that Toddy was taking on head on. And the heartbreaking, piece about that for me, thinking through it, it's like I like getting to the root of causes and figuring out how to knock things out and take care of it. And for me, thinking through the prevention, intervention, and restoration, I'm all about prevention because I hate that anyone has to focus their effort and energy on this at all. And so for me, thinking about it, it seems like it's an industry driven by men, and it's like, what's causing that? And it's like, so for me, stepping out in the ring, it's almost a call to action for men to be. It's like, guys, because these pimps, these guys are being groomed from an early age too. So it's like, what's causing them to get into this stuff? And so it's a love and a lust for money. It's a love and a lust for sex and for women, and it's like, just to guard your heart, guard your eyes, be cautious and aware of all the stuff that basically gets into your head, because those are gonna end up translated into your actions, and all that stuff creates a story of your life. So it's like ultimately it's like hopefully and after decades of doing all this work, you can get to the root to where you just totally eradicate it. And so for me, what breaks my heart is that if it's driven by men and if all that stuff's true, it's like for men to really just be cautious and aware of what they're letting their eyes see and what they're really soaking in and letting get in their head. So that's the heartbreaking piece for me. So.
Well, and just like Bruce's story of deciding to help one. It can be as simple as that one interaction, and internally for men, choosing what you consume, what kind of videos you watch, what kind of conversations you have. It can start with things as simple as the way that we talk to ourselves, right, and the way that we interact with other men, and the way we treat women on a day-to-day basis. It's all little micro interactions, little baby steps to improving how we all interact with each other. And like you said, we get enough of that positive momentum going, we get enough awareness, we can actually create some real change.
For sure. And in the same way that you try to eat healthy food, and you have all this organic stuff going around all these fads, it's in the same way. It's like this, the same stuff, the content that you're seeing, what you're investing all your time in, all that stuff. So that was basically the cause that really, fighting for Hands United and the reason I'm stepping into the ring. And then Brawl for a Cause is the perfect platform to be able to all of your family and friends and your network of people that you've gotten to know over your lifetime, to be able to reach out to them and be like, guys, here's a need that's directly happening in our city. Here's an event that's going to be an awesome, super fun event that these guys have developed over almost a decade now to turn into the best Saturday night entertainment event between amateur fights. And so it's a chance to come out and support family, friends. If you don't like me, come out and watch me get punched in the face. It's all that fun stuff. So there's something for everyone. So it'll be a good evening. So for us, we've really been able to leverage that and present it to our family, friends, coworkers, in a way to invite them out to an event to have fun, support a local cause, understand the root of what you're supporting, so that we can each do for one what you wish you could do for many. And choose yourself, it's like realize if you choose yourself first so that you can help other people too. But for me, and I try to do the same thing. It's like challenge myself to watch intake, watch what is going in, so that you're able to process it and turn out good stuff and help people. So
amen.
Yeah.
And it is not a hard thing what all of you have either already gone through or are currently encountering. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that piece. So the training is obviously tough. Getting punched doesn't feel good. You're running, you're losing a bunch of weight, you're getting in great shape, but sometimes you end up over a trash can, you push yourself a little too hard, you might be throwing up, you might be bleeding. In those hard moments, what comes to mind for you? Because there are plenty of hard moments, both on the physical side and the psychological side. Just, fundraising is not an easy thing. When I went through this, I would rather take 10 punches than ask someone for $1. I mean, it is a tough thing to go out and say, hey, support me in this. Like, put myself in harm's way for this thing that I believe in. Can you write a check? Can you come to the event? So when you hit those roadblocks, those mental challenges, what do you draw on? How do you push through?
Well, I think sometimes fundraising can be hard, but I think what I've transitioned my thought process is, if I don't ask somebody, I'm giving them the opportunity to miss an opportunity, right? I think folks want to do good. I think we're born with an innate desire to help others. And when we hear and we know, sometimes we hear and know the issue, but then we don't know how to respond. And so if I don't give them the opportunity, then I'm saying it's okay for you to know, but it's not okay for you to engage. Yeah. And so I feel like I do them a disservice if I don't say, here's a way for you to get engaged. And here at City of Refuge, our 4 core values or pillars that we sort of stand on are faith, family, fitness, and finance. So fitness being one of those, working out and running and eating healthy, something we try to do, at least some of my staff try to do on a regular basis. So the transition into training was a little bit natural for me because I'm already sort of driven to stay in shape, but it elevated it a lot, right? So it just elevated sort of my cardio, especially. I increased my miles every day, and then I've never boxed, so all of a sudden I'm hitting a heavy bag and trying to work on combos. And the first sparring session was obviously eye-opening, right? I sparred Dusty, who's fighting for House of Charity as well. And so, by the way, just 4 of the top 10 fundraisers are for the anti-trafficking.
Yeah, they are.
Dusty and Joe as well.
Yep.
And so Dusty is, 3 inches taller than me, and he's got long arms. And the first punch to the gut and upside the head was like, this is real stuff, man. And so it was good. It was eye-opening, and it was good. But at the same time, and I don't want to over-sensationalize it, but at the same time, in those hardest moments, I'm like, what's this really for? Right? This is not for me. This is not for something cool for my family and friends. This is really for a survivor to have a place to live, have trauma-informed care, have somebody to walk that journey, have somebody to chase her down the street, right? And so, I just try to keep that in mind and keep them in mind during those moments.
And I want to hear from you all too, but real quick, let's dig into that word survivor. A lot of people will say victims of sex trafficking. Why do you say survivor?
Well, because we believe they have overcome, and even if they haven't quote unquote overcome, they are overcoming. We just believe that. Victim is such a term now that it's as though something was perpetuated on them that sometimes might have been their fault in our mind, right? So if you're a victim of crime, sometimes you left your car, right, or you went to the wrong place.
You were asking for it.
You were asking for it. It's victim. In this situation, they're survivors. They didn't ask for this. They didn't put themselves in a position for this to be trafficked. And so we just think there's a dignity that comes with and it increases the value when you identify as a survivor. It's both what they have already been able to achieve, but more importantly, what they're going to achieve as they move forward. And if you place victim, it's a stigmatization that goes on them, that they carry with them, and we just don't believe that. We believe they are survivors and that the best days are still in front of them.
And something as simple as that word choice, something as simple as how you frame this experience that they've had can make all the difference in the world. You start hearing victim enough directed at you start to believe it. You start to hear survivor enough.
Change, and it's cultivating that whole mentality of I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor. Just in them calling us and saying, hey, I want help, or just them walking out from the pimp or leaving wherever their situation is, that's taking a huge step in the right direction. Whether they're with me for 24 months or 24 hours, they took the initiative to say, Kels, I want to be here. I want your help. And so that's just cultivating that mindset shift of saying, hey, that is something that happened. Yes, I have to dig all of that out and pour back in good stuff. But just saying survivor, you're telling them you've overcome. You are a warrior. You are worth it. And it's just constant feeding of positive thoughts.
Helps with that self-fulfilling prophecy of, and we do it to ourselves, and we have that all the time where we're like, put a sticky note on the mirror, tell yourself this. It's the same thing. If you can call yourself that and believe it, or at least start calling yourself to get to the point of believing it, then you've already made a really big step. Because even just walking out, whether it's 24 hours or 24 months, just that step, like you said, takes incredible strength, more than we realize. Because for us, it's like, well, why wouldn't you want to leave that bad situation? But there's so many little ties that are just holding on to them that it's really hard for them to walk out or ask for help. So it's a huge step. It's incredibly difficult, and they choose it and have that strength to do it, which is huge.
I love that. And something that we fundamentally believe in Brawl for a Cause is everyone is the hero of their own story. And believing that, knowing that you're on this journey and there will be trials, there will be adversity, but struggle turns into strength, adversity turns into armor, and reframing something that happened to you into something that you survived instead of something that happened to you that you can blame for everything is such an important shift to be able to say, hey, if I can survive that, I can survive anything. This recovery process, yeah, it's tough. I'm getting off whatever I'm on. I'm training doing vocational training to do something I've never done before. But if I can survive this thing, I can do this too. And it gets that positive momentum going, which is beautiful, beautiful work. So Tati, tell me about some of Hands United's actual programming. So what services do you offer? How can people get involved?
Yeah, so we are in development. So we are going to break ground on our home, hopefully in the second quarter of this year. So we're really excited about that, to where we can take in residents. But in the meantime, we focus more on the awareness and the preventative part. So just basically speaking to teens, which sometimes is difficult because as a teen, you don't believe most of the bad stuff that adults tell you because they're adults and you don't understand, the style or the cool words or a lot of the terms I am way behind on. And so, but it's great when you do catch their attention and they realize, oh, I am in that moment or in that website or in that app and I didn't even realize. And so that's one of the main things that we really enjoy, even with parents, to have a very trusting and comfortable conversation with their teens to where they can open up. Because a lot of times, one of the ways that different traffickers or recruiters can kind of get them to follow or do what they're asking them to do, or follow the rules or follow what they're asking them to do, which, even though the teen knows it's wrong, is if they did something they're not supposed to, and they can shame them for it or say, well, I'm going to tell someone. And so, I mean, for anyone, that's a scary thing. And for a teenager, that's really scary. And so if they can have that open conversation with their parent, then that takes away the power from the recruiter or the trafficker to use that over them. And that's one of the ways that we really try to kind of open up that room and it not be terrifying for the parent to think, oh my goodness, what is happening? Because there are so many solutions and so many different nonprofits, kind of how Kelsey mentioned, that do these different things that can help with it. One of the really great programs that we are a part of is Safe Place. Everyone is more familiar with Quick Trip, the gas station, and it's the yellow, not triangle, diamond that is on it, and it says Safe Place. And now if you go to the gas station, you'll notice it. It's like kind of on the left or right down by the doors, but all of them have it. It's a national program for the whole United States, but it's pretty much what it sounds like: a safe place for a runaway, for a foster, for just a kid who didn't feel like being in the house and wanted to get away from parents, to go to a safe place. Because the issue is, within the first 48 hours, when a youth is out and alone, that's the prime time for a trafficker, for a recruiter to see that vulnerability and step in and provide, fancy shoes, or let's go eat somewhere. Yeah, your parents aren't the worst. I got this. Let's go talk about it. That's the perfect time to get them. And that's when they're most vulnerable. And it's as simple as businesses saying, yeah, we'll be that storefront that says, we're a safe place, come in and ask for help, and we'll make the call for someone to step in and help you, whether it's getting you back reunited with your healthy family situation, or placed in a program that you need because you have been trafficked, or because you are, terrified for your safety, whether it's abuse or maybe leading up to trafficking. Mm-hmm. So it's a really great and easy program that businesses, just community partners can get involved in without much effort. It's just making a phone call. And so we really love that part. We have a couple of fire stations that have signed on within the city. We have a couple of restaurants, fast food places. So it's really anyone. It's just as long as you're willing to be kind of that storefront of literally a safe place for them. So,
a refuge, just like here. Yeah, it's beautiful. Exactly. And will you speak to the same? How can people get more involved at City Refuge or in the House of Cherith program?
Yeah, so cityofrefugeatl.org, they have a volunteer link, and there's a whole schedule of volunteer opportunities you can sign up for. And those range from tutoring kids after school to feeding in the kitchen to physical work projects. A lot of men's groups come out and do those, and those are always fun. The Brawl came out and built us a dog pen, and we've had puppy therapy for our ladies that have been survivors of trafficking. So that's...
I want to interject on that one. That was literally my favorite day in Brawl for College history, because the events are fun. But what this is about is the community that we're building and people that are willing to put themselves in harm's way to fight for this change they want to see in the world. And for me, sitting back and seeing someone in the red corner holding a stake in the ground and someone in the blue corner that they're fighting in 3 weeks, driving that stake in, and them working together when every other manifestation of boxing that exists, those two people would be talking trash about each other in front of every camera and every interview. You just don't see that in other boxing events or anything. And so thank you for creating the space for those types of moments to happen. And coming in today, I heard some dogs barking. So it sounds like the puppy playpen's getting some use, which is even better.
About 3 to 4 dogs in there every day. And then recently, now that the weather's not downpour every day, we've had puppy therapy twice a week. And so the ladies can play with the big dogs for an hour, and then they get the smaller dogs too, because some are still scared of dogs. And it's just been really cool to see. I mean, I have one lady right now who actually was attacked by a pit bull during her drug use time. And so she has this huge mark on her leg where she had a skin graft, a muscle graft, all of that. And she was scared to death of dogs. And then we had puppy therapy, and I didn't know the story until she came in. And my dog is a black lab named Apollo. He's perfect, but he is 90 pounds. And so you see this huge black dog running at you, and she's just like, Miss Kelsey, I don't know what to do. And so we just kind of coached her through that moment. Y'all, I can't get her out of puppy therapy now. Just because she was introduced to it in a positive way, she had that community support. Just like a collaborative effort. Yeah, that y'all had. You have people that are fighting for different causes against each other. They came together for one cause. And I walked a different journey than she has. But I came alongside of her in that moment. And so now she wants to take my dog home. And I'm like, no, he's kind of mine. But yeah, so that's just an example of ways people can get involved with City of Refuge. House of Cherith, our ways of involvement and volunteer opportunities are a little lighter and more slim just because of the nature of the ladies we work with. So right now we only allow females to do volunteer projects in the homes. And that's for, safety, security, emotionally and physically for the ladies. I've had ladies look at me and tell me I look like her madam, so I couldn't help her in that moment. So you call somebody else. But if you bring a man that has cologne that triggers that smell for her, or has a beard in that looks like her trafficker, or the same height, it's just so triggering. So we don't have men involved as much. But the first thing, most important, is prayer. We are a Christian organization, faith-based. Joining us in prayer is huge. Obviously, financial support is always welcome for nonprofits. But for ladies, bring your Bible study, bring your work group, bring your friends, and just have girls' night. We've had spa days where ladies come in and do hair, makeup, and nails. And it's just so fun to see that beautification process for positivity, not to go out and make money. And so just to break down those barriers over and over. So there's just tons of ways to get involved. You can do drives of, linens or things like that. So it's just find us on Facebook, social media, and we just launched our own website. So, Reader's Digest version, House of Cherith was founded as a program of City of Refuge. This January, we just launched as our own nonprofit. So he's not my boss anymore. So that's but yeah, so we have our own social media and website. If you just follow those, and there's tons of ways to get involved.
I am still chairman of the board when fire in time.
Okay.
The rest of the board would vote for me.
I was going to say, one of the great ways for men to be involved, we have an ambassador program to where you're literally just representing the cause to your circle. So it's not you speaking to groups of rooms. If you're comfortable, you can absolutely speak to a big room, but really just within your circle. And so Tommy is actually one of our ambassadors. It's not a requirement to fight. You don't have to fight. You don't have to get in the ring. But
It's maybe a baby step towards the ring. Be an ambassador first. Get that down.
Test it out.
We'll do a little bit work, see where things go.
But it's a great way to understand the issue, understand how local it is, and then know the solutions for under 18, over 18. And we really try to show our ambassadors all the different programs, because not everyone wants to work necessarily in restoration for under 18. They may want to do specifically over 18. That's where their heart is pulling them to. So we make sure that they know of our partners and know all of these different things that are happening, events that are happening to raise awareness or fundraise. So that's another way that people can get involved, especially for men. I think there's a term, boys will be boys, that you want it to be a very positive term, or not term, but saying, to be like, yeah, because they're strong. Or, if you said girls will be girls because they're strong, because they're tough, but it's starting to have a negative connotation. And so if we can just work with just first, how you said, like yourself, with what you watch, with what you say, but work on that to where that term becomes boys will be boys, and they're protecting their integrity and then respecting young ladies and women and looking after them, versus that saying being misusing them, but it's okay. So just to even something like that within your circle, to reframe that and think, okay, how do we, watch what words we use, or watch what we let into our eyes, and what's that first step, and what is maybe like a trigger with what we say to someone, or how we respond to a situation. How should we be more aware of it? So I think that would be one of the ways. When just real quick, when he heard the story of Kelsey fighting, when he signed up when he told me, I had no idea he was going to do it, and he's never been in
She's sitting right next to me. I'm sitting there.
No. I thought he was just working. He's never been in a friendly fight. He's never even fought his brothers. Like, usually people have gotten to like a high school fight or at work or something where you're like, yeah, when I was like a teenager, I punched someone in school. Not even with his brothers. So, from going to ambassador to this is a little bit extreme, but hey, we're grateful for it. But
I've got all that pent up anger from childhood.
Let it out. Well, Tommy, can you talk a little bit about what being an ambassador's like? What kinds of things?
Well, so like Tommy was saying, as an ambassador, so a lot of the events that they throw, the annual events that they're throwing throughout the year, you go and attend and basically, talk. So for me, what I'm passionate about is getting to represent, hey, here's this cause, and I want to eradicate this cause. So as an ambassador, it's like, here's what I believe is happening. So I'm able to go and talk to these, other men when they have no insight as to what human trafficking is. So helping define what that is for them, but then get into the root, of, hey, who's driving this trade, basically. What are they interested in, and how can you basically reshape that? And you start as small as start with yourself, because it's like I'm convinced I've seen it so much in the world in so many different areas where people they're almost blind to they don't realize the damage that they're doing with what It's like, so just being more aware and cautious of what you're intaking and what that's producing, right. And having the wherewithal to see that. So.
And our ambassadors are running the Refuge run that they have next weekend, so we're excited about that to help support it that way for them.
Perfect.
And acting on social media, things like that, and just helping promote their events and or you can step up and join Brawl For College.
There we go. It's another option. And being relatively newly involved, I'd love to hear from someone that's been doing it for 22 years, being an advocate, walking the walk, fighting the fight. Can you talk about a little bit from 22 years ago, kind of what you thought you were getting yourself into, and then where it is now, and what you think about that?
Yeah, 22 years ago, I didn't have really any idea what I was getting into. I just knew that there was somebody in crisis, and that led us to make a decision, my wife and I, and we had 4 daughters at the time that were 7, 5, 3, and 1. And, that one experience led us actually to leave our home in the suburbs and move into a church downtown Atlanta. And, we got a lot of experience with brawling from an unsanctioned kind of event. So, we lived in that church 6 years. We're broken into 34 times and 3 vehicles stolen. And I've been in Superior Court with guys that tried to kill me. And so through that whole journey, what we kept finding was while there were a lot of people that were making bad decisions in life, inside of that, there were all these people who wanted life to be better. And so our journey has been focusing on those who want life to be better, who want to make better decisions. And generally, they just simply don't have the resources, right? And so I call it opportunity and justice in our world. So 90% of the children born in my neighborhood this year will be born to single moms, and 70% of those will be born to teenage moms. Well, they're starting life with no momentum. They're starting life with no opportunity. Mom didn't graduate high school. Grandma probably didn't. Dad's not involved in their life. They live in poverty. They live in a crime-ridden neighborhood. And so if we just present resources and tools and opportunities and pathways, that's our whole assignment. Our assignment is not to change our city. Our assignment is not to change the world. Our assignment is to present resources so individuals can change their own lives as we walk alongside. And so for us, obedience is really the driving force behind what we do. We believe this is what we're called to do, so we do it every day. And it's not about the results. It's about whether or not we did what we were supposed to do. And even with the brawl, obviously, I don't have any interest in losing my battle. But if I do, it was still the right thing to do, right? I still go into the battle. I still prepare well. I still get trained. And at the end of the day, we have made a difference and provided resources for somebody's life that didn't have those resources before that took place.
You're highlighting another really important point that I think everyone needs to hear and really digest and marinate on, which is tying yourself to the intention of the work, not necessarily the outcome. So I intend to help these people, and I'm going to do everything I can to do that. If they choose not to be helped, or if something outside of my control happens that comes between them and improvement, it's not focusing on that outcome and saying, I'm not going to come back tomorrow. It's focusing on that intention and knowing that your intention was pure and that you'll definitely be back tomorrow to serve that food or to go another round.
Well, return on investment, if that's your measurement in the nonprofit world, you might as well quit.
Yeah.
It's not about return on investment. We're always going to have more failures than we have successes. Mm-hmm. We've settled on that fact a long time ago. There'll be more people we attempt to help who, because of life circumstances or because of their own decision making, will not get, quote unquote, better or move forward. Mm-hmm. It's not what it's about. It's about doing the right thing the right way over and over and over. So if we do good work well, then at the end of the day, we're satisfied with that.
Mm-hmm. Super important for everyone to hear that, I think. Failure is not a sign that you're not doing something right. It's a sign that you're doing exactly what you need to be doing. You're outside your comfort zone. Otherwise, you wouldn't be failing. And you can fail forward. You can learn more. You can become stronger. Through that struggle, there's strength. Through that adversity, there's armor. But thank you for sharing that. I'd love to go around one more time. And if there's one story that comes to mind from your organization, from your involvement with it, something that you think people need to hear, I'd just like to share. The podcast is called Stories Worth Fighting For. So all of you are fighting in your own ways for your causes. Maybe just a story that comes to mind. Whoever can start, we can jump around. But tell us about something that's happened inside your organization that you think people need to hear.
Yeah. You want me to start? I'll go first. When we had the conversation with an organization called Georgia Cares, who pretty much connects those under 18 with programs. So for us, with housing that they need to go to, they need to be placed, and asking what they needed and what's the most critical type of housing that they need. And the woman shared with me that the youngest individual, who is a male victim of trafficking, he is he's 5, and he was recruited to be groomed. First the recruiter met with the mom agreed, sold for financial gain, and he was sold and groomed to be trafficked. So he's not trafficked yet, but he's being groomed to get to that point. And he was rescued, which is great. So he's a survivor, but there's no program available for him to be able to, you mentioned it before, that word, like reframe what went on and have that be a platform for him and a success story and be the hero of his own story. There's nothing available right now for him. So he's kind of on his own on that.
Well, and going home isn't an option to a mother that has sold you.
Right.
That is not.
And relatives, we don't know how involved the relatives were with that, or if relatives supported the mother's decision, or, so he's kind of on his own. And so when we heard that was very, and how he got sold and how the mom got presented with the option. And we don't know why she said yes, but most of the time it's because they don't have other options or resources. And so not that it makes it right, but it's almost a cycle that is just really hard to, dismantle. So that was a really big push for us to go for the type of programming that we have, the type of style of that trauma-informed care that we provide for those that started when they were young and are now out, and how they can grow into, truly into community leaders. They don't have to be necessarily for the city, but even if they become alumni that then can come and talk to the other individuals that are in it. That's really what pushed us forward, is knowing that someone at the age of 5 who should be playing with Tonka trucks and, Legos and all of that, and instead they're dealing with a really massive adult-sized problem that even adults shouldn't have to deal with. And so that was a real eye-opener, that here in Georgia, that there is someone right now waiting to be put in. And so that kind of, let's say, lit the fire for us to keep going. And so that's been a really, really, really big push for us, for sure. So.
No, thank you for sharing.
I don't know, there's so many stories to tell, and just so many moments, in the houses and stuff, but as we're shining a light on slavery and we're saying this is a problem, people can become intimidated by that. They can say, yes, I want to join the journey, but it's scary, or I would be at risk, or I'm not qualified. I was 22 when I started House of Chair, had no clue what I was doing. I was raised in a great family with both parents in the home, Christian family, great education, all of that. And I knew since I was 13, I wanted to fight trafficking. What does that even mean when you're 13 years old, right? But I met a lady and she told me her story. I don't remember her name. I don't remember much, but I remember that she was done severe injustice. And I wanted to help fight for other ladies that had those experiences. And so I never felt qualified. And a lot of women struggle with this, and that self-confidence and just knowing, you may not be qualified by society standards, but by God's standards and by the call that's been placed on your life, you're overqualified. And so I went to school, did all of these things, and then Bruce knew that was my passion, was to help fight trafficking. And so he said, hey, Kels, we're going to build a safe house. Do you want to come run it? And I'm sitting there crying but laughing at the same time. I'm you're going to pay me to do my dream job? Yes, let's go. And so I was really excited, and I'm a bit of an emotional person in the sense watch your eyes. It's if I'm passionate about something, it's because there's fire, and I'm going all or nothing. And so I was really excited, and then the first lady comes in the house, and it's just Bruce picked me up and dropped me in the deep end. I was good luck, and you just learn as you go. But I just wanted to not necessarily tell a specific story, but say you may not be qualified by society standards. I have a master's in this now, but these ladies don't care about my degrees, my color-coordinated charts, my schedules, my little OCD plan for the day. They don't care about that. They said, hey, I'm in a moment of detoxing. Will you come wipe the sweat from my face? Will you hold my hair while I throw up? Will you hold the bag of peas to my lip where the pimp just beat me up? That's all they want. And so it doesn't take, somebody with a doctorate to love somebody or to show them, hey, I'll be here in that moment with you. Bruce has done it. Tati's done it. You just sit with people. Tommy's done it. He's joining the fight. You just do it with them. And so there's so many stories I could tell, and it's horrible, and then they end up positive, and that's great. But I don't want to paint such a negative picture, because it's just joining life with these ladies, joining them in their journey, wherever they are. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. If I tell every lady that comes through, you have to do A, B, and C, here comes this lady, and she needs D, E, and F. And so then my mindset, I'm but that's not in our program. So just addressing each thing individually and treating everybody as the human, the princess warrior that the Father created them to be. And that's just, it's the most fun. You learn so much stuff. And, I could have been arrested for things I've confiscated from the house. And I've learned so much about sex and drugs and alcohol. And I'm just sitting here I'm 27 years old, but I feel I'm 207, all the things you learn. But as you give to other people, whether it's in the anti-trafficking fight or homelessness or just hanging out with your neighbor who is having a hard time, you yield more than you give. 10 out of 10 times. And it's just so rewarding and worth it. And so just find out one thing you're passionate about. For us, it's fighting trafficking. For you, it's the brawl and helping give that platform to people to fight for their cause. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be glamorous, but just let that passion spur you forward. So that's mine.
Amen. Well said. I like that little eyebrow raise.
Yeah.
My daughter's emotional? Yeah.
And it's an ugly blight on society. You know, when you sit with a young lady who was first sexually assaulted and raped by her father when she was 5, and then he was a trafficker for the next 18 years. Right? I don't know how you reconcile that in your mind. I don't know how you reconcile that in your heart. I don't know how you turn a deaf ear or a blind eye to that. And we have that story more than once. And so not letting the weight of it overwhelm you is critical. Looking long term, it's an infinite game. Right? We're not going to win this in my lifetime. I'm with Tommy. I want to eradicate it. That's not going to happen in my lifetime. So we want to put in place legislation and programs and supporters that hopefully by the next generation, we've lessened it by whatever percent. The next generation lessens it some more. But so those stories are dramatic. They're traumatizing. They're emotional. But Kelsey mentioned earlier, we have 2 staff persons now that have come through our program with unbelievable, horrible stories that now are sitting with folks as they come in. The first night of intake, they're sitting with them, they're talking about, and they know, right? And so just being able to walk that journey, you know, we could list a bunch of individual stories. One of the things is that I get to experience is almost every woman that shows up here hates men, and rightfully so. And so they generally won't talk to me, speak to me, look at me for however long that may be. But to now be called dad by many of those 700 women that have come through here, and to have them come to my office to ask for a hug in the morning, or to draw pictures or to paint for me, right after they've walked this journey for a year or 2 or 3, there's nothing more rewarding than that. To know that you have changed in their mind the image of what a man should look like and can look like along the way. And so the opportunity to do that on a daily basis is a huge blessing in our life.
Can you tell us about last Sunday when you shared a video and what happened? Yeah,
well, you know, I lead a worship service here on Sundays, and our survivors of trafficking come to that. So the ones that live on campus, they come and participate in that. And so we did a little promo video around here for the fight, and you know, we stole the Rocky theme like everybody does. So I stopped at Goodwill and got gray sweats and a shirt that didn't match, and you know, put my little towel down in and my beanie and had my hands wrapped, and
your Chucks.
Even ordered some Chuck Taylors.
Nice.
You know, just the whole, and so we ran through the neighborhood, right? And one of the homeless guys wanted to spar me, so we're in the street having a little back and forth. He wants us to pay him to be in the movie, and you know, we run the closed down steps at the college over here. You know, just fun stuff. And so that had the Rocky theme. So last Sunday, we played that in the worship service. Just tell them, hey, Bruce is getting ready for the fight, and here's something we did. And at the end of it, it was a little bit overwhelming because it was real energizing and exciting. But women, survivors, started crying during the movie. Some of them were crying, some of them were laughing. At the end, everybody's standing and applauding. And it was just, again, this thing of, it was a cool little thing that you do with Rocky, but they're like, this dude's fighting for us. This is a man that's fighting for us. This is somebody that, in their eyes, a man that used to abuse me or rape me or sell me. And now he's going to go in a ring with a guy 8 or 9 years younger than him, who everybody keeps telling me, have you seen him? He's real cut up and built and stuff. Bring it on. So anyway, you know, they keep going, he's doing this for us. And it was just a real cool emotion. And I missed that along the way. I think just the connection to them, the fact that, you know, we've all thought this is fun and cool to go do Brawl for a Cause, but for them it's something deeper.
Yeah.
For them it's like, this is a man fighting to raise money so that those like me and the experience I've had don't have to be there anymore. So it's a very affirming moment for the fact that we're doing this.
Well, and talk about reframing. Something that, a form of violence that used to be directed at them is now for them.
Right.
and in the form of a sport. You and Mike aren't trying to kill each other in there. You're both fighting for anti-trafficking related charities, just like Tommy is, just like everyone else signed up for the program is. So for them, I'm getting goosebumps, for them to be able to see literally everything that they thought they knew about a certain gender and a certain type of activity be turned on its head, to have it be the antithesis of it. What a moment. I hope that kind of reaction continues, and I hope we're able to capture that and show that to more people, because I think it's so important that you're doing that, and that you're doing that, and that you've done that.
For the ladies to watch in their house too.
Good.
So as soon as they heard that he was fighting, oh, can we go? And I'm like, well, Matt only gave us like 1 ticket, so if he gives us 40, you can come. I'm just kidding. But no, we're going to stream it live in the house, and they're already planning their meal for the day and their big cookout and all this stuff. So they're really excited, and it's fun. I mean, I get to share my dad with all these ladies that had a dad that either abused them or wasn't present, and it's cool. They'll call me Miss Kelsey, but then it's like, hey sis, because they're his kid now, and it's just really cool, the whole family atmosphere, and just recultivating that mindset and just shifting and reframing what was to what could be for them, and then seeing them start developing those relationships with their kids or their family, or rebuilding things that have been broken. It's just really cool to see.
I think that's a really good note to wrap on, and the way that we wrap every episode is through gratitude. So, for example, I'm grateful to Chris for doing all this technical stuff that I don't know how to do, and making this podcast happen. I'm grateful to Sweetfish. Sweetfish takes all that audio, video, uploads it so people can listen to it. I'm very grateful to City Refuge for hosting today, for Tati and Tommy for signing up, diving in for Hands United. Grateful to God for bringing us all together, for empowering all the work that we do. And I'm grateful to Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring this episode and helping to lead the fight against more people finding out about anti-trafficking causes and being able to actually do something about it. So any gratefulness y'all would like to share?
Yeah, well, I'd like to say I'm grateful for the behind the scenes folks at Brawl For College. You know, you and I as leaders of our organizations, we get a lot of airtime, but you know, the Kelseys and Sarahs and others that
100%.
some of us will never meet or take care of all the logistics and the details and those kind of things. We're grateful for that. And obviously we're grateful for the event itself and the vision you had, but we're also grateful for all the donors for all the bouts that night, you know. So it's not just about anti-trafficking, it's about saving Susan, and it's about childhood cancer, it's about all the other things that are being fought for. So we're grateful for all the donors that are choosing to be a part of that as well.
Amen.
And thanks to Sam Coningsberg for introducing us so that I could fight, and he raised money for us too, and he's had a prominent role in this relationship. And so thanks to him and all the other people that are just making connections and networking on behalf of those that need somebody to fight for them.
Super thankful right now. So we've got a little boy on the way.
There we go.
6 weeks after the Brawl event.
Maybe Tommy coming out.
Yeah. So he'll be a junior, and we'll call him Theo. But thankful that I'll get to tell him stories about all of the men and women leaders that we've met along our journey, and to show him examples, and in recordings and all this stuff. To get to show him and say, hey, here, if you get mad at me for whatever reason, there's other reference points of people that you'll be able to look at and admire and help lead you along the way. So use them because they're amazing people. So I'm excited to use every one of you as reference points, for raising this guy. So.
Yeah, I'm really grateful. What I really like about Brawl For a Cause, I love seeing the journey leading up to the big fight. But I like the focus you guys have on beyond, and how this goes into every single area of your life and how you can apply that, because it is so different. I'm just watching, but seeing his different journey and how he applies it to work or to our relationship or to the different relationships with other people he has. It is definitely a game changer in how you approach life in difficult moments and good celebrations. So really cool concept. And I love and adore the fact that there's 40 different nonprofits, because at the end of the day, we're all fighting for something and we're all in it together. So I'm really grateful for that. I'm grateful for incredible partners that have, helped and consulted and kind of led and showed and everything. So much help from City Refuge and House of Cherith. And yeah, really grateful for the culture that both of you, the three of you, have set in your organizations, because that really makes a big impact on us, which is what we're trying to replicate. So thank you. And absolutely the people behind the scenes, thank you. It helps to get everything done for us on our end, to see how do we do this, or how do you even start training for boxing that you've never done before, or as the wife, seeing you tell them time to get punched and you're like, no, please don't punch, please, whatever you do, don't punch in the face. The first time I saw it was difficult, but you guys help us get through that too. The mom, girlfriend, sister, wife support group, it helps. So
it always hurts worse when you get home and it's, oh honey, everything hurts, help.
Little sympathy. It goes a long way. Awesome. Well, thank you all for sharing. Thank you for doing the work that you do. Thank you for sharing your stories, your testimonies today. For anyone listening, we'll make sure that this airs before April 6th. So come out. Every cause gets a booth at Brawl For College. If you want to learn more about how to get involved with Hands United, with House of Cherith, with City Refuge, with any of the other 37 nonprofits that we'll be supporting, go talk to them. Come see these brave brawlers fight for what they believe in. And yeah, thank you all. Thank you for being here.